Hello guys, you alright? Red Pill Phil on the eve of the DFLA event in Rochdale to bring awareness to what's been going on there for many years. The establishment just want to ignore, brush under the carpet. I was just going through my equipment, just having a little check, taking a few notes down, doing a little bit of reading and whatnot. And with this, the more you look into it, as with anything else, the more you see, the more it annoys you, the more you think it's totally unfair, the more you can see how racism could be born from this when you systematically ignore the concerns of demographically the majority of the area. You got a population of, well, I think this is a census of 2011, so don't quote me, but it's somewhere in the region of 110, 111, maybe 12,000 in Rochdale. The country of birth for residents, England. Thank you. England, 87.10%. Pakistan, 4.30%, which is roughly in people 106,418. Got Scotland, 0.90. Ireland, 0.90. Bangladeshi 0.80, India 0.50, Wales 0.40, Northern Ireland 0.40, Nigeria 0.20, Zimbabwe 0.20, and other 0.30. So, religion, you've got Christian 60.60%, no religion 18.60%, Muslim 13.90%, Hindu 0.30%, Buddhist 0.20%, Jewish 0.10%, other 6.30%. So you can see demographically the proportion of what the crime is all about in proportion to the population of Rochdale. It's quite a big incident. A crime of that stature, because you're not talking about 87.10%. If we're talking predominantly the people that have done it are Pakistani stroke Bangladeshi, you're talking 4.30 plus 0.80, so you're talking just over 5% of the population. So it's a very small minority, but have created such a massive crime and been enabled, you could say. But you can see it in how, for me, the class comes into it. This would not happen in an affluent area. Just wouldn't, for so many reasons. The concentration of people in affluent areas tends to be where they're not affected by migrants, by some people that choose not to live by the traditions of the country. Whatever they follow, there's plenty of positive people that live within that society are just getting on with it, so it's not a general sweeping. But we're talking predominantly Muslim with these crimes, and you've just got to ask the question, haven't you, really? The incompatibility from the people that follow their faith to the fullest extent, where they denigrate a certain society, certain part. You could say it comes up over and over again. Certain attitudes about Western values that certain people who follow Islam follow, so they naturally regard a person of a certain skin tone as beneath them. I don't regard anyone of any other skin tone beneath me. We're all freaking human beings. So fundamentally, you can see it. You can see how, because the kids predominantly, I'd love to know what areas they come from, but I'm kind of guessing they've probably come from the lower end of society. They were vulnerable children. And I was just looking at the marital status in Rochdale. 49.9% are married, 12% live with opposite sex, 0.8% live with the same sex, and 26.4% are single. So you could say that plays a part in it, because the vulnerable people, it comes back to the family unit again, or the lack of promotion for the family unit. More and more single kids, single mums, kind of splits all over the place. People don't have that sense of let's stick it out anymore. So it's all accepted now if you leave your partner and have a baby. And I'm not saying they're to blame for what's happened because of that, because I'm not. Circumstances might dictate you're better off on your own, but socially, generally, standards have dropped in that sense. The family unit is diminishing, but not within other demographics. So some people might look and go, why are you talking about it? It's irrelevant. It's just common sense. You can see it happening. You can see people who are not my skin tone see it happening. They want to say something about it, and because they're saying it, they're being called whatever, but it's happening. The figures are kind of saying it. I'd love to know what percentage of the victims are from broken families, because that'll add into that, and the data will come out. It's social degradation. It's all the normal problems within the working class, lack of opportunities, and kind of trodden down on. Now, same again, if you was to flip this into an affluent area, you would not get this. More of a promotion of a family unit, living in a leafy suburban area. They're not exposed to full multiculturalism, only on sporadic periods. So if that was happening to them, it'd be in the news, wouldn't it? They'd want the carpet ripping up. But because it's working class, because of the areas they possibly are coming from, because of the social issues and the way they act. I come from a council estate, so I'm not knocking. I was born and bred on one of the harshest council estates in Manchester, so I know what it's all like. I see what happens around me. Some people become a product of the environment, so standards slip, and we all just take your pick. There's areas all over freaking Europe like that, but there's no excuse for the way they've been treated. But there's lots of questions. I mean, I was just looking on, same again with certain faiths, with the stance on homosexuality, with the stance on how young age of consent is, or what they regard as the age of consent, whether it be girls or boys. But as I'm discovering, as I've always known, there are establishments like that anyway. But that aside, talk about Rochdale. I was just looking through, and it was one of them, as I'm digging in, I'm kind of seeing links, so I'm pressing on links. And the rabbit hole's getting deeper and deeper. Next thing you know, I'm on a few websites. Let me just run through a couple. Manchester Evening News. If we can see the date of when this was January 2013. Just random. Just seen the headline there. Thought, what's that all about? But it correlates with what is going on in society, I guess. But more working class society, not affluent green societies. The Asian population in the northwest towns is rocketing upwards according to the latest census figures. They show that both the Bangladeshi and Pakistani origin communities increased by 50% between 1991 and 2001 census count. The Indian origin population also increased, but not as dramatically. If these birth rates trends continue, the Asian population will double every 20 years. And with the white population declining, and by the mid-century, Asians as a whole could become the ethnic majority in certain towns. So you hear certain people that mention that, they're called racist, they're called far right. It's common sense data. Data is telling you this. It's not data that's easy to swallow, and certain people will regard you as smacking the hornet's nest by bringing it up, but it's data. What do? Ignore the data, and then 20 years later and go, oh, the data was there already. It is what it is. Data's not racist. Data's data. So there was a program called Three Little Girls. Is that this one? Yeah, Three Little Girls. Which was a BBC drama that was exposing the scenario in Rochdale. Not the whole scape of it, but it concentrated on three girls. But this particular article, it says the writer of the BBC drama exploring the widespread grooming and sexual assault of young women in Rochdale by Asian men, that little sly deflection there, has addressed concerns that it could be used by far-right groups to further their racist agenda. So that's the first paragraph. And is that all they're worried about? I mean, I know they've done this show because they want to highlight. But is he seriously worried about that? I mean, what I would be more worried that the governments, the councils, are totally ignoring this. And if justice was seen to be done, you wouldn't get a rise of the far right, because no one would be kicking up. Because if you didn't have politicians that were heavily biased in the way of political correctness, when you shouldn't be, a crime's a crime. I don't give a shit. If they're black, they've done the crime, they've done the crime. If they're Bangladeshi, they've done that crime, they've done the crime. They should go to the full weight of the judicial system, and they should pay the consequences if they're found guilty under a jury. It's only the same rules that I have to apply to, and pretty much everyone else who's trying to get on with life. So when you can see that's not being adhered to, you're going to get a rise. But if you're going to get a judicial system that will come out and kick ass, you've got a CPS system that will come out and kick ass, you've got a police system that will come out and kick ass, regardless of your race, on the severity of the crime, and go right through. Even if it does end up that this goes all the way up to the top gears of politics, go right through, clean that fucker out, get disinfectant, clean it out, get bleach in there, clean it out. Because then when that is seen to be done, you ain't going to get no rise of the far right. Because why would you? Because justice is being seen to be done. And then then you're just down to a niche amount of ignorant people that just want everyone out of colour anyway, which is a whole different argument, but don't conflate the two. So this just straight away gets into it. Nicole Taylor, who wrote Free Girls, said that while she accepted that groups such as English Defence League and other extremists would hitch their wagon opportunistically to anything, she felt confident this drama doesn't give them opportunity to do so. Well, I'm glad in the second one she backtracks somewhat, but they've been quick to throw far right. What's far right got anything to do with this? Concentrate on the pissing crime. Don't demonise a whole section of people because of a depiction of free girls being systematically abused. What have they got to do with it at this point? There's not one crime that's happened because of this programme. From the programme's conception, I'm sure, to this story. If there was, they would mention it. They would say in this, oh, since this programme's come out, there's been a spike in it. No, there's nothing. It's just, let's demonise. That's just saying, if you start talking about this now, you're regarded as this. I'm talking about it. So am I far right? Bollocks. So that was just another one. And then they talk about the rise of the far right, but then you think, well, they are rising because you will get a niche that will feel like that. And that will only grow inevitably because they're being constantly demonised, they're being constantly told that you are wrong for saying this, and you've got some ignorant people that play into that narrative totally. The world is a mixed up place. You've got people like that on all sides. White, black, whatever, Muslim, whatever. You've got wrong uns on all of them, and I've seen it. But it doesn't mean to say that you can blame them. You've got to respect, particularly with working class areas where you've got a lot of social issues, you've got a lot of degradation, a lot of mass unemployment, lack of opportunities, people, finding vices in order to get through life because they're being shat on, because you're being kept in that little bubble that you'll never really achieve something unless you really punch out of it and you really wake up. And a lot of these people are vulnerable because, there's a lot of issues within council estates. A lot of issues generally around the country. Working class is regarded as the lowest of the low. So you do get some that become a product of that environment, and it's not easy. But then when you've got systematic failings within councils, within police forces, within the Home Office, within judges, and they constantly see it over and over again. And then you get things like this. To commemorate Pakistan Day, a Pakistani flag raising ceremony took place at 10 a.m. on Friday the 23rd of March at Rochdale Town Hall. Mayor Ian Duckworth, Tony Lloyd MP, councillors, representatives of organisations, leaders and members of the Pakistani community attended. Before the flag was raised outside the town hall by Mayor Dickworth more like, the Quran was recited by Hafiz Malik, and people, sorry I butchered his name, and people were invited to make a speech. Councillor Asim Rashid, so there's a lot of councillors that seem to be Asian here, or maybe have I just interpreted that wrong, and you think of the demographics I mean, John Lawrence and I had a little chat about this, about demographically, but political correctness again, eh? You know? Just other issues, that's another question, I'm not even going there. It is a real great honour for us today to be gathered here. This day was passed on a basis of equality, tolerance and respect for communities. Was them 3 girls? Was the rest of the girls, are they getting all that? Tolerance, respect? They're not. But you can't say nothing. But yet, the politicians, the mayors, leading representatives of organisations are queuing up to have a photo opportunity with members of the Pakistani community. Now, I'm not even saying they don't deserve a day. Positive members of the Pakistani community deserve to be able to feel that they can celebrate it. I'm not against that. But why don't you also talk about the negative side of it as well? You know, I'm just saying, let's see it on both sides. So if you can't do that, and your politicians are doing this with big dirty grins on their faces as they're holding up the Pakistani flag, would he do that with a Union Jack? And there's some part of me, a lot of it is like, you're just hypocrites. You turncoats, and you are facilitating in, as the Manchester Evening News put, Asians could become a minority, a majority. That you're facilitating in that. Now, if that's happening naturally, you would imagine that all demographics would be pretty even. Why is it only a particular demographic that's just spiking the chart? And even this, Asians could be still, it's not Asians, we're not talking about Asians. There's not even a Chinese demographic in Rochdale there, I'm sure there are, but they're not mentioned in that. So the numbers are that small, it's like trace amount. So Asians could become a majority. We're talking a particular sect. We're talking Pakistani. We're talking Bangladeshi. So I'm just saying, these are questions, these are concerns that people legitimately have got the right to bring up. But you know what will happen tomorrow? You know what will happen? You know the news stories, but there's nothing I've said there in a derogatory way. I'm just speaking what I'd like to regard as common sense. I've still got a love for any man, no matter what his skin tone and no matter what his faith is, as long as he treats people how he wants to be treated himself and goes about his business and adheres to the traditions of the country and respects them and respect the people that do respect the traditions of this country. Full stop. Job done. So, red pill Phil, just not shutting off, but I am now. I'm going to take an hour off before I get my head down. So, big event tomorrow, who knows? Let's wait and see what it's going to be like. It's about pushing the message in a positive way. Data is not racist. Like and subscribe, guys. I love you all, even the pissing haters.